Hello. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's done. So sorry, we are a little late of schedule, but yeah, we make it anyway. So hi everybody. This is Heat Project Update. We are the Heat teams, and I'm Rico Lin, and this is Sam Bitter, and we have Robert here, and we have other Heat developers as well. That one is for network experts. So yeah, we have a lot of people and here and so let's get it started. What is Heat? It's orchestration. Well, if you really don't know what is Heat, don't worry. You can find us. We have a longer time to help you to figure out what is Heat and how they can use. But eventually, Heat is something that you can use to orchestrate your resource. By orchestrate, we mean if you want to have some complex way to have a map of resource, like, yeah, I want a Nova instance, and I want to send the volume with it. I want to have a glance. Yeah, I want to have a glance image. I want to have other things to combine. I want to auto scale it. I want to auto heal it. Yeah, you can use this tool. And we have now everything's working. We've been working on things we need to track is on top of the storyboard. So you have anything to report to us or complain about Heat, go to that storyboard. Everything is welcome. We need any feedback. Technical vision reflections is still under review. And yes, so this is not something we should skip it. It is something not yet done, but feel free to review it. And so these few slides just give you the links you have, which if you go to the very first slide here, you should have the show the URL link. You can directly download this by yourself and go click everything you need, because the other web page is a little too complex to express to you. And it's not update, so we're not going to do it. And this link we can show you the Sting cycle reviews and highlights. So it's just basically some technical discussion documents you can see. So features, yay. So we have done some features in this cycle. You want to get in start?
Sure.
Yep.
So first thing to note is that due to changes in the release publishing mechanism in OpenStack, we had to change the distribution name from Heat to OpenStack Heat, which means everything is now published on PyPy, which is good, but if you're developers of tooling for OpenStack distributions, that might be something you need to change, because a couple of paths change. But as far as users go, that should be transparent. So deprecations, the personality property in OS Nova Server has been deprecated in Nova for some time, I think.
Yeah, it's deprecated for some time already.
Yeah. So we're advising people not to use that. You can use metadata or user data instead, but basically the config drive stuff is not.
Yeah.
Not the recommended way anymore in Nova itself.
And by the way, you actually can hit something in session is if you're trying to use it in the new release, because Nova kind of cut it into a micro version. So the newest micro version will not contain this personality stuff.
Yep. And Ravi can explain to you all about micro versions sometime.
Yes.
So a couple of bug fixes there. Software deployment, software config resources. If you are a global admin, that is, you're admin for the entire OpenStack installation, now you can see and do stuff to those resources directly through the API. So I believe global admins can already see all of the stacks and delete them and stuff and update them if necessary, but because the software deployment and software config has separate API endpoints, now that you can do the same thing through there. Another change is you can roll back a resource with a stack update. So when this happens is quite often you might accidentally change a resource. This happens a bit with neutron networks and stuff. You'll accidentally do something to change it, and when you try to he tries to create a replacement, there'll be a conflict because it's got some overlapping thing which is not allowed. And previously you would end up with a perfectly good existing resource, which was the one you actually wanted to keep, and then a new one where the create failed. And next time you updated the stack, it would still want to create a new one, and that would kind of keep failing. If you have rollback enabled, then that would work. It would roll back to the previous resource and everything would be fine. But if you had rollback disabled, then you'd kind of get stuck there. So the new change is that you can now, if you realize that you accidentally updated that resource, you can roll back by doing another stack update with the old template, and it will actually see, hey, I tried to create a replacement. That's the current resource. It's in the failed state, but I actually have a resource here that's in a good state. That's exactly what I want because you're using the same template that you used to have. And he will now roll back to that old resource, delete the failed one, and you'll be good to go again. So that's a nice change for kind of robustness. That does depend on having convergence enabled, which has been enabled by default since Newton, and you should all be running with convergence enabled by now. So if you haven't, probably a good time to look at updating existing stacks that were created in legacy mode, update them into convergence, and you get nice features like this. New features, Octavia resource types now support UDP as a protocol. Oh, right, so load balancers, you could previously only do TCP, right? Now you can do UDP as well.
Now support UDP as well.
The upgrade check command, this was a community-wide goal, so I guess this is relevant to people who are writing deployment tools. You can check that all the services, hopefully in OpenStack, you can check that they're ready to upgrade by running the service status upgrade check command. And right now, I don't think we actually.
Yeah, it's kind of like a placeholder there.
Yeah.
So I think the plan is about to maybe have a central, like from Oslo's back to write some very decent upgrade check there, and they also allow projects to write their own upgrade check in their own repositories. But right now in Heat we kind of like just a placeholder, but it's just a thing that you know that we have this command right now, but we still need to figure out how we need to do it. If you are very interested in upgrade check and you are still here in PDG, you can try to join us and tell us how your upgrade check going to be checked.
So for Stein it does nothing, but in the future, for example, one day we will deprecate legacy stacks and we will require everyone to update all of their existing legacy stacks to convergence. Before you upgrade, and we'll put the check in the upgrade check so that you can check that all of the stacks have been migrated before you do the upgrade and stuff starts breaking. So that's kind of more of a housekeeping thing at this stage, but it's something that will be useful in the future. We now allow you to configure the Max Nova API microversion. So this is change that Ravi has been working on, because how do we used to do it?
So basically,
we used an old microversion, and then for newer commands
for a long time we used the base microversion. For a long time we used the base microversion. So number of times we used to create clients with the microversion that supports a specific feature when we need that. So we changed that, I think, in Queen's cycle, probably where we query the Nova service to get the supported microversion. the maximum microversion that a deployment supports, and then based on that, we create the client. So basically what, by default, any new feature that is being added would be supported by Heat. We don't have to create clients with newer microversions. But what that resulted in, some of the features that are deprecated in specific microversions, now they would not work with it. So example is personality. So there are a lot of users who come and complain about saying that this thing doesn't work anymore. So basically for those users who have not moved on the way Nova has deprecated all these features or removed all these features, what we have tried to do is that you can set the, with Hit, you can set the max microversion that you have. So anything deprecated in higher microversions, you can still use those features that are available with it. But obviously we expect users to have move with Nova and Hit as we deprecate stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Potentially, yeah.
Teams of RPC microservices.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for the benefit of the recording, Pablo was just mentioning you could use that during, if you were upgrading services at different times, you could use that to pin the microversion that Heat used in Nova.
Okay.
And then the last one, which Rico worked on, and is probably the most exciting new feature, finally, multi-cloud support. So OS Heat Stack resource has been multi-region for a while, so you can create a Heat Stack in a remote region and manage it from your local Heat. And now that extends to multi-cloud, so you can create a Heat Stack in a remote cloud, provided obviously that the cloud supports Heat. And the credentials for the remote cloud come from Barbican, so you will need to have Barbican in your local stack, but you can you specify the secret name in Barbican as part of the OS Heat Stack resource, and it will find the remote cloud and deploy your stack to the remote cloud, so you can manage Heat stacks in multiple remote clouds from one central place using Heat. You want to say anything else about that, Rico, since you wrote it?
Yeah, it's fine. So just want to say that the documenting is not working because I trying to expect that already merged, but the document is not yet. So the patch 1 is ready for you to see how this everything's gone. That got all the explanations of how you're using it and what does that mean and how you can even using the SSL. SSL is I'm not sure if I write it in the next slide, but if I'm not, the SSL service, the SSL way, way to access to another cloud is allowed it. Even in the same cloud, you can using for your multi-region environment will do as well. But anyway, there is a secure way to using your CS cert to access to the other clouds. Feel free to test it. So there are other new features like we usually have like this kind of a new properties and new resource. The new property for the OS Heat Stack is those are mostly for the multi-cloud environment, and the credential secret ID is for the multi-cloud environment, and like what Zen just mentioned, you need Barbican support before you can use this feature, and that's for security concerns, that's what we recommended. For the CSR and insecure is for if you want to using the SSL. For your stack.
It's probably worth mentioning separately because an issue a lot of people had with even with multi-region was that they had different CA certificates for the different regions, and so basically the client config was not sufficient to talk to the remote region. So having these properties in there allows you to specify a different CA cert or in fact, to disable SSL altogether. Don't do that, by the way, but now you can.
Yep.
In testing, of course, I'm sure none of you are doing that in production. But in testing, if you need to disable SSL because the remote region has different certificates, then you can now. So that's the reason behind that change, and that works for both multi-region and multi-cloud.
Yes, and we also have neutron quotas have a new property as well, and we also have a new provider network to have a property as well. I'm pretty sure that is very important for some very resource use cases, because that is actually from people who actually need networking services and provide this kind of a resource update. Since for the timing we have here, we're not going to run through every single one and describe how important that is. But if you need to use that.
But let's talk about web image, because that's one that people have asked for a lot. So Glance v1 API obviously allowed you to upload an image. So we had an OS Glance image resource in heat that went away with Glance v2. We now have it back. So it's a different resource type, OS Glance web image, but it allows you to create an image with Glance v2 using the web download import method. So for those waiting for that, it's there now.
So the information is this: use Glance web image and don't use Glance image and try to migrate from there. And we definitely will deprecate the old one eventually, but the new one is ready now, just for you to know.
The old one is different.
Yeah, and let me quickly go through the known issue, because this is actually there from the last time. The key pair issue. So it's about the key pair is created by users specific, the user domain, but rest of your services is created by project domain. So when you delete a user in the project, and that user happen to be the one that managing the stack, that is when the key pair becomes the issue. Feel free to read this all. We are already running out of time. I see 3-0 here, so. So let's give it like 10 to 10 minutes. So we have some other going plans. Feel free to join us. There are auto scaling stuff. There are self-healing stuff, and we have other improvement as well. So please come check it, the link here, and give us feedback. And we also have tell you how to contribute, which is very important. Our meeting time is Wednesday weekly at the 30 UTC time. Even we don't have a meeting, we will be there for any questions. And that's the most important information, the link of the slide. Thank you.
And come to project onboarding tomorrow, and we can hopefully have a bunch of new Heat developers.
We'll
get you up to speed.
Right, the most important. Yeah, we have onboarding session tomorrow. And don't worry, we talk everything. We're so funny. We might provide beers, I don't know, but it's so funny. So join us, and thank you today. Thanks.
Thanks.